if you were in the car, if you were driving from, you know, Birmingham to London, you'd probably go on the M6, down the M1, whichever way you went, you'd go on a road of some description. You wouldn't just sort of plough straight over the fields and go in a direct line. You'd use the roads, wouldn't you?
That's right.
And it's the same thing in an aeroplane. So there are effectively roads in the sky that we're going to use, and they all have these strange sounding names, which means nothing to anybody other than pilots, and over a period of time you get to know what all of these are. Now we're looking for a departure called the Sanborn 1 X-ray departure. It will look like SAM 1X. Now I can't see it there, but we've got 12 pages of these departures.
Okay.
So if you flick down to the next page, we're looking for SAM 1X. There it is. So select that, and what you should see, it should start to appear on our map.
All right. Yep.
So if I just zoom in again a little bit, so we can now see we've got 4 waypoints which take us out to this point. That's 40 miles from where we are.
Right,
So
okay.
it's taken us out about 45, 50 miles from Gatwick to this point called Sam. Now Sam is actually Southampton. So that's taken us as far as Southampton. So if you now press execute, you'll see that that will go solid pink or magenta.
Yep.
So that's now, that little part of our flight plan is locked in to the aircraft. Now what we can do, let's look at our arrival into Jersey. So our arrival to Jersey, EGJJ. Now we're going to be coming in, we need to tell it what runway we're going to be coming in on, checking the wind and weather at Jersey. We're almost certainly going to be at runway 26. If that changes, we can always change this plan as we go through.
Okay.
But we want to find the ILS for runway 26. So go to your next page. There we go, ILS for 26, let's select that. So that's the runway that we're going to land on, and you can see all of a sudden that that's just appeared now. So that's Jersey Airport off in the distance. And we're going to be using, now we had SIDS before, we now have these things called STARS. So these are standard arrival procedures. So in the same way we've got roads to come out of an airport, we've got roads to come into an airport. And we're going to be using the one called the Jersey 1 Alpha. So if you want to select that, you'll see on here, there's another little bit of a flight plan.
Okay.
So starting at this point here called AUTAC, which isn't anything, it's just a reporting point in the middle of the English Channel. But that's where we're starting from. So if you press execute now, so what we've got now is we've got a nice little departure out of Gatwick, a nice little arrival into Jersey, but we've now got to draw the line between Southampton and AUTAC.
Okay.
So if we go to legs, you see after Southampton we've got nothing, which is what we can see. So at the moment, although that's all drawn there, the aeroplane's going to get to Southampton and then say, what do I do now?
Yep. Okay.
So we need to bring AUTAC into that point there. So if you press next page, pick up AUTAC, and then go back the previous page, and then pop it in where that gap is. That's it. That should draw the line.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
So we can now execute that. Let's just have a look farther forward. And then just bring runway 26 into Jersey in the same way.
What, press that one?
So you want to pick up runway 26
Okay.
and then put it in after Jersey. That's it, and then execute that. Sorted, lovely, okay. Well, we've got a nice little flight plan then. We've still got quite a bit more to do, but we're in a position now where we can push back, get the engine started and get ourselves underway. You're enjoying this, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
Good, okay. Let me put this down for you as well. This will
Okay.
just make it a bit more comfy for us both. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to look at our overhead panel. So this is where we've got where we're managing all of the systems of the aeroplane. All the hydraulic, electrical and mechanical systems, it's all pretty much done up here. In years gone by, you'd have had a flight engineer sat behind with a load of dials. But nowadays aircraft are, you know, very computer driven like everything, and so they've done away with the flight engineer on most aircraft, and this is what we've got. So first thing we need to do to get ready to start the engine is we need to turn all of our fuel pumps on. Okay. So if I turn that one on, so they just need to be flicked forward nice and gentle. If you want to do the same thing with those two, that's it, and then these two as well, the centre two pumps. So that's all of our fuel pumps on and running. Okay. Working down from here, we now need to turn our hydraulic pumps on. And that one as well, that's it. And we're now going to need to turn our air conditioning off, and the reason for that is we want all the available power to be able to drive our engine. Okay. So just for a minute, we're going to have to let the passengers get a bit warm. We need to turn our left pack off, so that isolates all the aircon, and we can open our isolation valve to the engine. Right, okay. Then moving down here, in a minute we're going to turn our anti-collision light on. We're not going to turn it on yet because there'd be guys walking around and we don't want to blind them. But in a minute that's what we're going to do. So I'm now just going to simulators getting the pushback. So you'll see we'll start moving back now.
Alright.
Here we go. And we'd now be told that we're cleared for engine start. So you can now turn our anti-collision light on. That's it. And we're now going to start our engine. So we've got two engines on the aeroplane, and we're going to start the engine on your side first.
Okay.
So the way we do that is that's engine number 2 on your side. So if you want to turn that to ground, that's it. Then what you'll see here, if we look down here, this is our engine readouts.
Okay.
So what we can see is that the start valve for engine number 2 is just opened. That's what you've done by doing that.
Okay.
So that means now that air's being thrust into the turbine and it's starting to turn over. You can hear it starting to turn over. Now when we get up to about 2.5% power, what we're then going to do is release the fuel into the engines. And you're going to do that, we can do that now, by just pulling that out a little bit and then rolling it up to here. That's it.
Okay.
And you'll see what's going to happen now. You can see the revolution starting to come alive, the oil pressure and temperatures all building up, and the engine's just starting to build itself up. It'll stabilise at about 20%, which will be a little bit like a car sitting there ticking over.
Okay.
And we'll know that the engine's set up properly because that light will go out. That's kind of what we're waiting for right now.
Okay.
Okay, so the light's gone out. So what we can now do, at the moment we're running on our auxiliary power unit, which is a little generator in the back of the plane, which is generating power for us.
Okay.
Now we've got an engine online, we can turn over to the power on that. So if you want to turn forward the engine generator 2, that's it, just till the light goes out. Lovely. Okay, so that's engine 2 up and running. Now we need to do the same for engine 1. So engine 1 to ground. There we go. Start valves open again.
Okay.
And we're just waiting for the engine to come up to 2.5%. Then you'll release the fuel, just as you did before. And I don't know why we've got an Australian cabin crew, but anyway.
Aussies get everywhere.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, so again we're just waiting for that start valve to go out, and then we can continue our setup. There we go. So let's turn over onto our engine generator for 1. Lovely, okay. So our APU light's come on now. That's just telling us that the APU is available. We don't need it anymore, it's just burning fuel.
Okay.
So we can turn that off. So just turn the APU off. That's it, and light goes out.
Okay.
Okay. So we're now going to work from the top here and just make sure we're turning everything on that we need. So our window heat is already on, that's good. We need to turn our probe heat on.
Or both?
Yes, please. We don't need anti-ice because it's a nice clear sunny day. We're not going to fly into any icing conditions, so the anti-ice systems can stay off.
Okay.
All of our pumps are on, all of our engine pumps and electrical pumps, that's good. Moving down here, there's nothing else we need to do here. We can now bring the fans back on so the cabin can get nice and cool again. And we need to turn our packs to auto. Likewise, the isolation valve wants to go auto. That's it. And can you see here we've got a little warning light. Anything that's orange is a warning light.
Okay.
So we've got a warning light there saying we've got dual bleed on. That's because we've just turned the APU off, but we've still got the APU bleed, so like letting the air get into it. So we can turn the APU bleed off now, we don't need that. And then a couple of seconds later we should see that light go out. There we go.
Okay.
So continuing down to here, let's turn our wing light on and our logo light so everyone can see us. We want to turn our engine start switches to continuous. And then we can now turn our taxi light to auto. So you can see there's like a flow with everything that we do.
Yeah,
you
just
kind of
work
go
your way
down.
through.
Yeah. So you don't kind of look at it and go from here to there to there to here. It's kind of like a solid flow that you work down each of these, and then at the bottom you then work across.
Okay.
Okay, so that's pretty much everything we need to do with the overhead panel at the moment. So we've still got a few more jobs to do. we need to turn our auto brake to RTO. That stands for rejected takeoff. So if we have to reject the takeoff for whatever reason, the aeroplane will automatically brake for us.
Right. Okay.
Next thing we want to do is set our flaps to setting 5. So if you lift that up, then let it drop, and then lift it as you pull down, that's it, and then pop it into that gate there, that's great. And then we'll see our flaps are in transit. The little flap lever light's going to come round and settle on 5 in a minute. We need to check our flight controls. So if you want to try turning to the left, we should see that everything moves that way, that's it. And I'll try to go to the right, lovely, and then pull back, that's it, and then push forward. Okay, and the key with the controls is that when you're flying, you want to try and be as smooth as you can on them and try and make nice small movements. A lot of people come in and feel that they've really got to give it some, you know, it's a big airliner, I've got to own it. But it's actually the other way round. The smoother you are and the smaller the movements, the more control you'll have.
Okay.
You almost can't under control it, but you can very easily over control it.
Overdo it.
Yeah,
Okay.
So what we're going to do now then is we're going to taxi out to the runway. Now this is the one part of the flight where I get to do something. After that it's all pretty much down to you.
Okay.
Because we've got to use this steering tiller which you don't have over your side.
Okay.
So this basically is going to control the nose wheel on the
I had
front.
to go with that last time.